I am live. Let's see here. Hello, hello, everyone. Merry Christmas Eve's Eve. Okay, looks like I am live. So, I always have to do my mic check because I have definitely started speaking before or started the show before, only to find out that I wasn't even live. How about that? Okay. All right. So, welcome, you all. Welcome, everybody. As you come in, say hey. So, I know you are there. So, I know you're out there. Y'all know I like to talk with you, not at you. So, let me know you're here. Um, I cannot believe this, but this is our last episode of the Eventful Life Living Out Loud for 2021. And also, it is the culmination of our second year. So I am just so just so honored and so pleased that I've had the opportunity to bring these episodes to you guys each and every Thursday. Well, I can't say each and every Thursday because there were some Thursdays that I did not meet you here, but for the better part of the year we have been joining each other here on Facebook, or you've been joining us on the recording on YouTube, as I brought you different women in business, different mompreneurs, different women entrepreneurs who are just out here living life, showing up, through life's challenges, through life's triumphs. And as you know, I say failing forward, but still doing it authentically and still showing up even through as life is lifing, they're still showing up in a very authentic and transparent way, and sharing their lessons learned. I'll be honest, when God led me to start the Eventful Life TV 2 years ago, I had no idea the transformation and the impact that it would have. And not just on, on you guys, but on myself as well. I knew that, at that time, for those of you who may not know, at that time, me and my family had just moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was a huge life change for me and for our family. And, I had no idea what was in store there, and really had no idea, even why God was calling me to start this TV series. He planted it in my heart one day, and I was just like, y'all know, now those of you who know me, you know how I am. I was like, okay, God, really? Really? This is what you want me to do? And he was just like, yes, this is what I want you to share other women's stories. I want you to share their stories authentically. I want you to share the things that really go on because you're not the only one who needs it. There are women out here who need to hear the real of the real, right? And I know sometimes we are afraid to share the real of the real, to be honest, right? So if you guys see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to make sure that I'm capturing people's questions and things like that. So sometimes we're afraid to share the real of the real because we are either worried about what people are going to say, what people are going to think, what we think ourselves, about ourselves. And I've just, really come to understand over these last 2 years that, y'all, number one, we are a lot more alike than we are different. Let me say that again. We are a lot more alike than we are different. We may have different career paths. We may have different things that happen in our journey. But a lot of the things that we feel, a lot of the things that we internalize are actually, and a lot of the struggles, the internal struggles, not just external things, but the internal struggles. We actually have a lot of similarities in those. And so it is nothing but our own selves, as well as the enemy, that tries to make us think that we do not, so that we don't talk to other people about it, so that we don't share our reality or the things that are real. So I just, today we're doing our year in review, And I just wanted to come on here and number one, just really share some recaps of some of the conversations, some of the moments that we have had together. I truly appreciate my audience out there. You guys just don't know. You have continued to show up for me and for this platform, for the women who come to this platform. You have continued to show up throughout this crazy, crazy year. Okay. Because let me keep it real. This year has been bananas. There have been some of the high highs, there have been some of the low lows, there have been all things in between. But yet, the one thing that has consistently been consistent, right? The one thing that's consistently been consistent is the fact that we continue to show up. We as women continue to show up. And that's why I felt compelled to call this recap. Women are here to stay, honey. We are here to stay because through this year, we have shown our resilience, we have shown our vulnerability, we have shown how even when we fall 15 times, we are damn sure gonna get back up. Okay. And excuse my language, but honey, sometimes you have to use it in order to truly get your point across. And what I mean at the end of the day, y'all, is that women are in it to win it. Okay? We are in it to win it. We're not in it to not lose. We are in it to win it. And winning it doesn't always mean that we are just busting out the gates talking about how bad we are, how tough we are, how rough we are. When it sometimes means that you literally lick your wounds, you go home, you fix yourself up, and you show back up the next day because you know that there is a next day. And sometimes that is winning it. Sometimes that is showing that you are here to stay, that you're not going anywhere. And so I just hats off first of all. And look, I got my Santa hat on because it is Christmas Eve's Eve, okay? And although my emotions, to be quite honest, because look, y'all know that we keep it real here on Living Out Loud. To be quite honest, my emotions have been very mixed bagish all day. But you know what? I wanted to. I know that um, we can't always just sit in our feelings. Like, yes, you have to acknowledge them, but you also have to know that you are the creator and the designer of your environment. And so you have to figure out how to move through some of them, no matter whether they're high or low. You have to move through them. And don't just stay there. So the hat is for not just for y'all, but it's for me too. Okay, y'all like it? Okay, getting myself in the Christmas spirit. So anyway, I want to say hats off to all my women out there who I had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing throughout 2021. You guys are just phenomenal. You actually inspire me. You kept me inspired this year. Each of you showed up with so much tenacity, so much resilience, and there's just so much to say about that, right? There's so much to say for when you don't even feel like showing up, but you still do. But you show up authentically, even when you are in the space where you don't feel like it. So to kick off our year-end review, one of the things I want to do was just share some of the highlights, right? And again, shout out to my audience out there because I know that you guys you showed up on Thursday. So we started off on Thursday afternoons. We were doing lunch together, okay, and then we shifted to doing dinner together. So we started having our soul food, our dinner, and it was awesome because the feedback. I have to say, feedback is one of the greatest tools. If you don't ask for feedback, how are you ever to get better at what you do? How are you ever to grow through what you do? And so I love feedback. If you know me, I love feedback because I take that to heart. I know there have been times where maybe the feedback didn't feel so good, but even if it doesn't feel good, it's there to help you. It's there to help you grow so that you know what to do and what not to do, right? What's working and what's not working. So you guys gave me the feedback that, you know what, girl, I love to catch living out loud, but Thursday in the afternoon is really becoming hard for me. Could we possibly look at evenings? And so midstream, mid-year, y'all, we switched to evenings and started doing dinner together. And honestly, I love it. I love it here. I love Thursday evening. It's a good way to just unwind for the evening. It's a good way to even have some, some girl talk. Because sometimes when I'm chatting with my guests, and you guys are, even though you guys are out there, chatting with us in the comments, I still feel like we're just having some good old girl talk. So I appreciate the feedback on that because that was wonderful, and it actually increased our viewership. So that was awesome too. Uh, so let's get into it, right? Y'all, we kicked off the year powerful. I mean, out the gate, 2021 was set to, I don't know, it was set to be a mixed bag of things. Some people thought, 2021 it's going to be the year because we know 2020 was a hot mess. It was a hot mess in a handbag. And so we were like, okay, 2021 is going to be the year. We're going to come out of this. We're going to, we're going to come out of this pandemic. We're going to move into some new things because outside looked like it was starting to open up. And then 2021 started looking like it was just 2020's cousin. Right? It just started looking like, okay, I'm seeing some things that are familiar, and I'm seeing some things that I think is making me feel like we went backwards, not forward. And so 2021 started looking a little different and looking real hot mess-ish, similar to 2020. But out the gate, we started off so strong with such an amazing conversation with Dr. Cherie Good, talking about the power of starting again. And it was at the top of the year, y'all. It set the tone because many of us have been on this journey of either trying to figure out where we're headed, like what are we looking to step into next, or where we feel like we're being led or called to next, whether it's a next level in our journey, in our career, in our personal life. We were trying to figure out kind of what's next and how do we move through this pandemic that is still here. Like, let's be clear, it's still here, but we know that we just can't stay on pause forever. We have to figure out a way to still find our rhythm, to find what is the new next or the new normal for us. And so Dr. Cherie opened us up with such a powerful, powerful episode talking about healing and understanding. One of her quotes, which I thought was such a gem, was when we choose to start again, we get to see the evolution of how we get better every time. That was so good. That was so good. I had to write that down because sometimes we are afraid of, what's next, especially when we don't know what that looks like. And if you know Dr. Shree, she was very open. She's very transparent. She recently lost her son, Jordan. May he rest in power and rest in peace. Who was a lovely, lovely young man. Had such an aspiring future ahead of him, and had a experienced a tragic loss through a motorcycle accident. And so I'm sending so much love out to Dr. Cherie and her family. Just because the loss is so hard, and but it also touched on something that we all have been experiencing this year, which is a lot of loss, and understanding that we have to figure out how to heal, through our loss. Grieving looks different for each and every one of us, but finding our way through it and knowing that it's okay to not be okay as we find our way through it was so powerful and such a great way to open up the dialogue and the conversation and the authenticity at the top of this year. So, y'all, then we made our way into, because we started getting a little more confident, and we know, again, we knew that we still in a pandemic, but we had to figure out how do we, even if it is baby steps, even if it is one foot in front of the other, how do we take the next step forward? And what does that look like? And so another powerful conversation that came to mind was my conversation with my planner sister, Lucretia Williams. We talked about doing it afraid. And y'all, that literally is the answer. That is the answer. That is the answer. Doing it afraid is the answer. Because there will be times, no matter what, there will be times when we literally have to tell fear to take a back seat. It does not mean that you won't have fear. It does not mean that fear does not exist. That would be naive of us to think that it does not exist. However, we will be doing ourselves a disservice if we allowed it to completely take over and keep us from the things that we know that God has called us to do, from the things that we know that we are being led to do, to impact the world, to serve others. And so doing it afraid was such a timely and powerful conversation because each of us has probably experienced moments, especially in either 2020, 2021, or 100, like my mom says, if you haven't ever experienced it, then just keep on living because you will. But we all have been there. We've all had moments. So we opened that conversation up with a big, bold statement, which was tell fear to go sit down somewhere. Okay. Tell it to go have several seats because you have to get super, super convicted about the fact that you just will not allow fear to control your life or your destiny. We all know when we have those feelings deep down inside of us where we're like, oh no, this thing is waking me up at night. This thing is on my mind first thing in the morning. I know that I have a greater calling. I know that I have a greater purpose. And the only thing that stands in our way is usually our own fear and fear of whatever. And that's the thing. We sometimes we don't even understand or know what is that fear of because it hasn't even happened yet. So it's almost an illusion. It is an illusion that we have created in our mind, trying to already anticipate the things that we think are going to happen, whether it's what somebody's going to say, whether it's am I going to fail, whether it's, do I even have what it takes to execute this at this type of level? Whatever it is, we've already talked ourselves out of it when it hasn't even happened yet. So let's make sure that we truly have taken fear and make sure that it sits down somewhere and most notably in the back seat or not even in the same realm. So Lucretia, she made this quote, she dropped this nugget. I think it was from Joyce Meyer's book, Do It Afraid, that says, when God gives you an assignment, never let fear cause you to question what he said. Okay? Let me say that again. When God gives you an assignment, never let fear cause you to question what he said. Because what I know is that he makes no mistakes. When he calls us to do something, he is going to chase us down, keep after us until we do it. Okay? It can be a month later, a day later, a year later. But whatever that seed that is planted deep down on the inside of you, that rumbling that is down in your stomach, it is still going to be there until you learn how to push past the obstacles or whatever it is that's trying to tell you that you aren't good enough to do whatever it is that he's calling you to do. So that was another powerful conversation and one that I think really, really changed a lot of us and how we really look at fear. Moving into some more, I would say, heartfelt conversations and really just what I would say really authentic, transparent conversations where we had the opportunity to really see the heart of some of our guests, our ladies who came and spoke with us. I want to bring to mind one conversation first that really moved me this year because of her authenticity, because of how willing she was to be so open and transparent, and because it was so recent that she has experienced a lot of her changes. and a lot of the circumstances that she went through. And so the next conversation that came to mind, where I would say, we had a number of guests who really showed up and just shared very from a very personal place, would be Nicole Cobra Johnson. And we talked about being the CEO of your soul. And Nicole really moved me and moved a lot of my audience out there. You guys, I remember after our conversation, I got so many emails, so many inboxes about how moved you were, from her authenticity, from her transparency about her journey battling breast cancer, and how she shared so openly about the feelings that she had, about how she felt sometimes so vulnerable by the fact that she almost felt like she could not um, do anything but climb up in a closet and cry, you know, because she wasn't, didn't know what this journey held. She'd never been here before. She never battled with breast cancer before. But to know that, your hand, to know that your faith says one thing, but again, your faith doesn't negate the fact that there might be fear there. And Nicole shared that so honestly and openly with us. She is a true warrior, and the way that she encouraged, throughout her journey, encouraged others while still showing up as herself, still showing up with her own shining her own light, even through her own battle of breast cancer, was one that I will, that was an episode that I will never forget. That was a conversation that I will never forget. It truly touched me and just shows how sometimes, again, when we think we are all alone in our own struggles, when we think we're all alone in our battles, that is a trick of the enemy. We are not. We have a community of people out here ready to surround us and show up for us with love, with authenticity, with help, with all the things that we need. And then we have a higher and even higher power than that, who is always there with us and for us, to make sure that we know that we are not alone in anything that we come before. So I just really want to shout out Nicole Cobra Johnson. Thank you for coming and really touching us in a way that I don't think we could have been touched unless you were truly sharing from your heart, which it was felt so deep and so real. One of the things that she left us with was, you get to choose how you show up each and every day. You get to choose how you show up each and every day. And I know that that is from her heart, because, I know that anyone who has experienced something like that in their own life, I'm sure there are moments when you could have chose to show up in such a different manner, and probably people wouldn't have minded at all because it would have been well within your right. But the fact that she chose to still show up, maybe afraid sometimes, but still shining her light. And I think that was a word for all of us. All right, y'all. So we're going to move over to the babies, okay? Because, like I said, not only are the women that I bring you, entrepreneurs and women in business, but they are also moms. They are also wives. They are also, women who are not only trying to figure it out in their business, but they're also trying to figure it out at home. They're trying to figure out how to make sure that their home has that same peace, that same balance, that same love, that same authenticity. And sometimes, as we women know, life can get the best of us when we are trying to balance both worlds, and not even balance both worlds, but just trying to be and exist in both worlds, in business and in our home. It sometimes it can be a daily struggle. Sometimes it can be an overwhelming struggle. But sometimes it also can be the most beautiful blessing, because we know that we put as much love into our homes as we do our business. But it does not mean that it does not come with some rough patches, right? So, especially when you throw in the mix a whole entire pandemic. Come on, somebody, right? So, like I said, here we are in 2021, and we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and moms have been trying to figure this thing out. So, one of the conversations that I had this year was with Megan Ely, talking about parenting in a pandemic. And I will tell you, that was an insightful conversation because, again, I don't think that anyone can say that there was a wrong way, okay, a wrong way to handle parenting in a pandemic. At the very end of the day, if your kids are still alive, no, if if your kids are here, if you are here, if we all are here, then you are doing your very best. And I hope that you learned through this year. To all my mompreneurs out there, I hope one of the things you learned this year is to give not only yourself grace, but also to extend grace to our babies, because they have been so resilient in this year as well. Many of them have had to learn how to learn at home remotely, how to adjust at the drop of a hat to sharing their parent with whatever work they have to do, in addition to also trying to help them with their schoolwork and any extracurricular activities that they've had to do. And that's, one of the things that Megan Ely and I really delved into in the episode of Parenting in a Pandemic is with Megan's son being autistic, just really learning how to parent, you know, um, when things are different, when situations change, when circumstances change. How do we make sure that our kids are still getting what they need from us? But then how do we make sure that we're still giving ourselves what we need so that we can show up as the best parent that we need to for them, but then also still handle our business the way we need to for our business or for others that we have a relationship or responsibility to. It was such a great conversation. It really, I think, for a lot of us, again, went, took us right back to the fact that, hey, we are all out here trying to do our best, but we're not in this alone. We're all out here together trying to figure out how to do our best when it comes to something that none of us have ever experienced before. So, listen, I know I, for one, can say at the top of the pandemic, I was like, okay, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Because right now, Janelle don't know. But we figured it out. Me and my boys, we got into a rhythm, not without some bumps and bruises. But guess what? They're still okay. I'm still okay. And we learned each other enough to figure out, how do we get through this? How do we give each other the space and the grace we need to figure it out? What things do we need to establish in order to get on the same page? What's our routine? What works well, what doesn't? Okay? And all of a sudden we found ourselves in a rhythm. All of a sudden we found ourselves on the other end of the cray cray and starting to see some light. And I hope that, a lot of my mompreneurs out there found their way through it. I hope you didn't beat yourself up about it, because, listen, no one is perfect. And I think that we all are perfectly imperfect. And however you landed, you did the best and are doing the best that you know how to do. Okay. But we call on our resources. And one of the things that Megan left us with, one of the nuggets that she left was, we have to learn to give ourselves grace, but we also have to learn to think about ourselves, or we also learn things about ourselves and our kids. So I think that that is so true and so spot on. All right. So I just said we had to learn things about ourselves and we had to learn to give ourselves grace. So that obviously takes me into the next conversation that I want to highlight, which is probably something that we have heard all year long, which is about self care. OMG. I know self care seems to be like the buzzword these days, and maybe it is. But one thing we cannot deny is that women, we have had to learn how to really tap in and tune in to what we need as it relates to self-care. What does that look like for you? And my conversation with Jatheta Hernandez was so good in regards to self-accountability is self-care. You know, we've had to do some really fine tuning inwardly, and y'all know this is my jam because I'm all about, in my space as a life coach, life purpose coach, and a business coach, I'm all about the thought work. I'm all about the strategy that is in thought work, the inward work that we do that produces the outer results, because it is the inner work that actually is what helps you to win this outer game. When things, because the outer game, the external things can shift and change and move, they can fall apart. We've already seen that as an example from last year and this year. But you shall not be moved if that inner game is solid, if that inner work, that thought work has taken place. And so self-care is a part of that. Giving yourself the desires that you need is a part of your self-care. It is a part of acknowledging that you see you, right? We always talk about how being seen by others is such a authentic experience, or such awareness, but you have to see you also. And self-care allows you to see you. You are literally saying to yourself, I see you and I see that you need XYZ in order to continue to be your very best self, to show up as your very best self. I've shared my story before that through this whole pandemic, through my own inner work journey, I've learned, through being burnt out in business, I've learned that I have to own my space. I have to own the part of my picture and where I fit in that picture. And through that, I started to learn how to carve out space for myself where I could literally have my own time, my own me time, my own time to focus on me. And that sets the tone for my day. That sets me up for success in my day. And so having that conversation with Theta Hernandez was amazing. It really is something that I hope a lot of my women this year, I hope that you've taken the time to become aware of what that looks like for you. I hope that you've established a routine for what that looks like for you. If you haven't, commit today. Do not let yourself go into 2022 being burnt out, busted and disgusted because you haven't taken the time to really focus on you, because you are allowing every excuse and everything else monopolize your time and feeling like you are not worthy of that same amount of effort and time. So please don't let yourself go into 2022 that way. Make time for you. That is the way that you show up your best for everybody else. And that means you have to advocate for yourself sometimes. So that takes me right on in to my next conversation, which was with Jean Wade Meyer, advocate like a mother. And Lord knows this year, we've had to do a lot of advocating. Not only were we in the midst of, or still in the midst of, a pandemic, but we also have been dealing with a racial pandemic. Ever since the murder of George Floyd, may he rest in peace, and then following that, the conviction of his murderer, but then seeing that it didn't just stop with George Floyd. We had so many other black and brown bodies who have been murdered, and it has caused us to realize that we all have to get to a place where we come together and start advocating for one another. There is no way for us to move forward if we don't do that together. There is no way for us to move forward if we don't own and use our voice to help serve and protect one another. And my conversation with Jean was a powerful one because not only do we have to learn how to do that for others, but for women in particular, we've had to learn how to do that for ourselves. How to use our voice to talk about the things that we are passionate about, whether it is politics, whether it is religion, whether it is sexual orientation, whether it is a illness that one of our loved ones have, whether it is a whatever it is, we've had to learn how to use and own our voice to advocate for the ones that we love, for the people that are in our communities, the people that are in our environment. And that is something that sometimes as women, we've been told that you don't use that. We've been told that that's not what you do, that you're to be seen, not heard. We've been told that you don't talk about religion, right? We've been told that that's not ladylike to talk about politics in front of others. And so there's so much unlearning to relearn. There's so many things that we've had to learn that, you know what, that no longer serves me because that doesn't allow me to be who I truly am. That doesn't allow me to be free in the use of my voice. And so that was another powerful conversation that was so needed with Jean Wade Meyer about advocating like a mother. She shared her own advocacy with advocating for her son, who she's had to learn how to do that, who has autism, and she's had to learn how to advocate for him within the school system, within their neighborhood, at home. She ended up going on to actually run for a school district position just so that she could continue to advocate and start working in that way to advocate for children who have autism. So we each have our own way that we show up and we use our voice. We each have our own way that we learn to advocate, but by all means, we have to use it. We have to know that it is rightfully our design and our position to use it. It may look different for each and every one of us, but it's a shame if we don't use it. It is a shame if we choose not to. It is a shame if we allow others to intimidate us and think that we cannot use it. It is a shame if we allow other opinions to make us feel as if we're not supposed to use it. So that conversation was one that I loved. I love it. It touched my heart of hearts because I believe in advocating. I will have to say, I've had to learn over the years how to advocate on certain things, even in my own life. As a little girl growing up in the South, I did not grow up to always be raised to advocate for certain things as it relates to politics, or even always talking about religion. But I've had to learn that those things no longer serve me. And so now, honey, you can't shut me up. All right. So let's move on into another powerful conversation, that I really, and this will kind of be the last one that I want to highlight. And that was with Natalie Frank Hayes talking about the power of vulnerability. And I want to close, kind of start to wrap things up a little bit on this note because I think that this one hits home for me. And if you followed me, just on my journey, again, just with thought work, and doing the inner work, vulnerability has been something for me that has truly tested my inner strength. I come from a long line of um, fierce women, Black women who they do not talk about being vulnerable. They talk about the strength of going out here and doing what you do. That you don't let, it's chin up. We ain't got time for all that. You leave your feelings over there, leave those in the corner. You dare not let nobody see you cry. All those things. And while I do believe that there is strength in understanding that you have an inner strength. You have an inner strength that you bring with you wherever you go. But part of what I've had to unlearn to relearn is that there is also strength in your vulnerability, and your vulnerability doesn't necessarily equate to, showing up, boohooing and crying all over the place. But what it does equate to is that in some of the most scariest moments, or in some of the moments where you really feel like, you know what, this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable for me to share, or this is uncomfortable. The way I feel in this moment is uncomfortable, that there is power in being vulnerable about that initial feeling. It's okay for us to say in the middle of a pandemic, when maybe some of our lives were being turned upside down, that we were scared, or that we were, shook about what's going to happen next. It's okay to say when you lose someone that, you know what, your heart is hurt, or that you need to take a pause, that you don't feel like dealing right now. It's okay to say that and not force yourself to feel like you got to show up as the superwoman when the superwoman doesn't want to show up right then and there. There will be a time and a place where the superwoman is all ready to go, and it's like, yes, strap on that cape, I'm ready, because hey, I got that momentum and I'm gonna keep it going. But that doesn't mean that that has to be all of who you are. One of the things that we have learned this year, and Natalie really exemplified that with her own journey of of having to fight some illnesses herself, also battling with getting pregnant and not knowing if she was going to be able to get pregnant. She shared that her vulnerability is what really led her to being who she is today. Being able to share with her tribe, hey, I'm going through a tough season and I can't show up the same way that I usually do. And I think it's okay for us to get to a place, and this year particularly has shown many of us that we are people, we are multifaceted. We have so many different layers to us. We don't live in just one vein. We don't live in just the I'm every woman vein. We don't live in just the I got this all the time vein. We don't live in just the, we don't live in just the I'm vulnerable all the time vein. We are multi-layered. We may have moments where we are high on life. We got, we know we got this. We walking loud and proud. Just the same as the next day, we may have a moment where it really shakes us to our core. And we're like, you know what, y'all, today is a do-over, or today is not the day. But knowing that in that vulnerability, showing up in that vulnerability, and knowing that when you show up in that vulnerability, it allows you to say at that time, this is who I am. I'm showing up as I am, and that's all that I am. It creates space for people to see you for who you are and accept you or not for who you are. And whether they do or not isn't on you. What's on you is that you know that you were true to who you are in those moments. And that's the part that you get to own, is that you are true to who you are in those moments. And whatever happens from there, that's not for us to decide, right? So I loved my conversation with Natalie. It really dug deep into my soul. Like I said, it was something that really resonated with me. And one of the quotes that she shared, which I believe it was quoted from Brene Brown, actually, was vulnerability is not about fear, grief, and disappointment. It is the birthplace of everything we are hungry for. It is the birthplace of everything we are hungry for. And I think everything that we are hungry for is to know that, you know what, we're not alone, to know that there are others who can identify with where we are or where we have been, to know that we have a earnest human connection to one another because we grieve, we find joy, we find disappointment, we find fear, we find all of those things through our connection with one another. And I believe that that's really what each and every one of us are hungry for, is finding that connection with one another. So I want to say again, thank you guys for another amazing year. Year two down in the books of the Eventful Life TV, Living Out Loud. I had no idea what was even in store when God led me to kick off this TV series 2 years ago. I had no idea that I would have the humbling pleasure and honor to come before so many different women and bring them before the world and have them share their stories so authentically. It has been an amazing ride. It has been an amazing journey. Every single woman that I have had the honor of interviewing is dynamic, is amazing, and is out here changing the world one woman at a time, one conversation at a time. And so I just have to say to each and every one of you, thank you so much for owning your own voice. Thank you so much for showing up and sharing yourself so authentically. Lord, getting tongue tied. It's getting late. Thank you for sharing yourself so authentically. And thank you for failing forward, because it is truly through our failures that we find our successes. So thank you for failing forward, because each and every one of you are a success in my book. So I want to thank you guys as we wrap up. Listen, I hope that y'all have an amazing holiday, loving on your loved ones. I know that these holidays right now are a mixed bag. I know that there are those who are grieving loved ones. I know that there are those who are overjoyed because they get to spend time with their loved ones, which they may not have been able to do last year. I know that there are some who are, at a loss for words because they're finding themselves in a position where they may not get to spend time with their loved ones because of what's going on outside. Outside is looking real outside-ish again. And so I just want to say, no matter which one of those you are, I hope that even in the midst of it, you find something and someone that brings you joy. I hope that you find it in yourself. You find that joy also in yourself. Because in everything, what I do know is that in everything, we can find gratitude. We can find something to be thankful for, even if it is the fact that we are still here to breathe that gratitude. So thank you so much. Listen, 2022, I already feel it in my bones. I already feel it in my soul. It is going to be a new year full of new things and full of new opportunities. I will say that I'm excited to come back. So we'll have a few replays going on at the top of January, because your girl needs to take a pause while I start to reconfigure the Eventful Life TV, and I'll be coming back to you with some new content, some new things. One of the things that I will say is that for those of you who don't know, I have started a new journey in my business, expanding my business into the wine industry. So you have to know that that is coming soon to a TV near you, where the Eventful Life TV will be including some fun things that have to do with wine with my guest. Okay. So I'm raising my glass to close things out. I'm raising my glass because I do want to raise my glass to every single woman in business, every mompreneur is out there. This toast is for you. This is for all that you do, all that you are, and all that you are becoming. Cheers to every single one of you. You guys enjoy the rest of your 2021, and I will see you in 2022. Bye.